Hello, it's Jimmy here, and today I want to talk to you about my medications and the medications I've been on and how I've navigated the world as someone with severe mental illness and medications. So let's start with the very first diagnosis I ever had and the medication I was on. Peaches. Anywho, the very first diagnosis I had was ADHD, and it was suspected that I had post-traumatic stress disorder due to the fact that I'm a survivor of some pretty horrible abuse. It's a long story, but anywho, I had ADHD and I was promptly prescribed Adderall, which I abused terribly. Now, this is when I was living in the States, and I've since recovered from my Adderall addiction and have struggled with some other addictions, but through therapy, self-help, a wonderful support system, and doctors, I've been able to stay sober. Or sober-ish. I still smoke. The second medication I was ever on was Zoloft. Now, Zoloft was for what was perceived as just me being borderline personality disorder and having depressive episodes with major anxiety. The Zoloft did not work well. One of the first things that it says on Zoloft is you don't give to people with suspected or family history of bipolar disorder. At the time, they were very convinced that I only had borderline personality disorder, and that just wasn't the case. Borderline personality disorder for me means a lot of different things, and I have a whole rant on it, and we'll eventually make a video on how I feel about borderline personality disorder and the disproportional rate that it is diagnosed to femme persons who experience severe abuse. Now, I was only on the Zoloft for a few months, and then it was off, and then I was off medication for a few years. When things started getting to the point where I couldn't handle them anymore, and I was having a hard time managing jobs and memory, and I was diagnosed with having obstructive sleep apnea, I realized I needed to go back on medication. So with that being said, I talked to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist realized, oh, you're bipolar type 2. Or bipolar mixed features. Bipolar type 2 was pretty much, if the medication worked, you were bipolar type 2. If it didn't work, you were mixed features. So we got me on a couple of different medication and pretty much just relied on my family doctor to help me. I was on lamotrigine, I was on risperidone, I was on a whole whack of medications that did not work for me. For the last 3 years, I've been on a combination of Abilify and Cipralex, and every so often we up one and then we up the other, but the Cipralex just wasn't getting rid of my anxiety like it was supposed to. I was on 30 milligrams, which for me was a very high dose, with 7 milligrams of Abilify. That wasn't working. I started getting anxiety again, and it was major anxiety this time, and it came about in a lot of the same ways it came about before I had medication. So I had to go on short-term leave from work, which I'm still on. And it's come to the realization that I am a lot more disabled than I let on. I mask a lot. But that being said, I do have ADHD, so being neurodivergent and masking is something that I always do. I'm masking right now. So I got on that, and I was on that for 3 years. And like I said, we're upping it every so often. Now I am getting off the Cipralex and getting on Pristiq. Right now I'm on Pristiq 50 milligrams. I'm on Abilify 7 milligrams, and I'm on 20 milligrams of Cipralex. Also, because I am having some neurological issues, I shake. You can kind of see in the video, but not as much as when I'm not on the video. Sometimes I get tremors where my hand shakes this much, and I get spasms in my legs. It's really scary when that happens, and it usually follows by a lot of dizziness and feeling muscle weakness and fatigue. One of the other medications I'm on to help monitor this is a medication called tetrabenazine. And tetra just is the generic term for the company that you get it. You have Teva, oh no, this is tetrabenazine, sorry. But sometimes you have something like Apo, Teva. Those are the generic names of the company that you're getting it from. So for example, I take Apoprazole, which is the Abilify, and I do take the name brand for the Cipralex and the Pristique. So I don't get the generics of those. Now, I'm very lucky. I live in Vancouver, British Columbia, and through that, I have a thing called Plan G. If you're in Vancouver, British Columbia, and you have issues with affording your medications, Plan G could be a wonderful opportunity for you to be able to afford these life-saving medications that help with mental health. Now, I say life-saving because they can keep you from feeling thoughts or having thoughts of suicidal ideation, major panic attacks, triggers, and other things that make day-to-day living really hard. So right now I'm on a lot of different medications, and that's okay because that's what's working for me. I'm titrating off of one and getting on another one. Titrating is just a fancy word for saying I am reducing the amount of one medication. I used to be in the medical field, and so I know a lot of the things the doctors talk about. A couple of other medications I've tried was trazodone for a PRN, which is just another way of saying as needed, and that kind of worked and it kind of didn't, but it ended up giving me serotonin syndrome, and right now I'm on Seroquel, but I have to take a pretty big dose of it just to get me to calm down when I am anxious. Medication isn't for everyone, but I do highly recommend talking to your doctor, psychiatrist, and therapist about medications that could or could not work for you, because living a life worth living is so important. I'm not saying every day has to be a happy day, but every day should be a comfortable day where you feel comfortable living the life you live. Now, there's lots of reasons why that's not possible. Maybe there's wage disparity, maybe there's economic issues, maybe there's classist issues, maybe there's a whole bunch of interpersonal issues that are going on. But talking to a family doctor if you have one, and talking to a psychiatrist again if you have one, and a therapist can really help you manage your symptoms in a way that work for you. I understand that I'm in a very privileged position living in a very expensive place in the world where some of these things are offered free through the cities I live in. I am incredibly poor, so there is no way that I can access these without them, and these are life-saving treatments for me. I'm going to make a two-parter to this video because I want to talk about therapies and why they're important. So I hope to see you in the next video, and have a wonderful day, and it was lovely getting to know you.